2 weeks ago, on September 30th, Colonel Douglas Krugman resigned his post after serving 24 years in the Marine Corps under 4 different presidents. He said he could no longer take an oath to serve under a commander-in-chief who treats the Constitution like a suggestion. Writing, quote, this president acts as though one election makes 236 years of constitutional order irrelevant. Instead of trying to work within the Constitution or to amend it, President Trump is testing how far he can ignore it. If voters and legislators cannot close the gaps in our laws to clarify the limits of presidential power, those who serve our government will continue to struggle. The next president of either party may continue us down this path toward collapse. Joining us now, former Colonel Doug Krugman. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me today.
Can you explain? You said you had your title scrapped when you resigned.
If you want to retire and keep your rank for use in retirement on your ID card, on your tombstone, you have to serve either 3 years at that pay grade or receive a waiver from the Secretary of Navy or Secretary of Defense. Had I wanted to keep my rank, I would have had to keep serving until about this time next year. So I voluntarily accepted a symbolic demotion to Lieutenant Colonel in retirement.
That's a lot. Tell me exactly why you felt you could not wait another year. You could not serve out the rest of your service term.
Well, some people start with policy disagreements, but disagreeing with the policy of an administration is perfectly normal for military personnel, perfectly normal for civil servants. The elected president can implement his policies in accordance with the law, and we follow that whether we agree or disagree. Moral issues are more a personal choice based on personal values. And as President Trump's first term ended, and then between his inauguration, his election and his inauguration for a second term, I saw a lot of actions and I heard a lot of rhetoric about things I did not consider moral. And frankly, I wasn't willing to risk my life anymore to serve and defend. And then finally, there's the more concerning threat, which has become much more obvious over the past few weeks, is about actual illegality and illegal orders to the military to conduct actions that they should not be conducting.
We can talk about that aspect in a moment. I want to talk about the morality here. You think that there were clear lines drawn and then clear lines violated in regards to what is a morally right thing to do by a president of the United States. What bothered you so much?
Morality is very much a personal choice. It's shaped by society. It's shaped by religious beliefs. But for me, the pardon on his first day of his second term of the January 6th rioters, insurrectionists, was a moral line for me. The oath is to defend the Constitution. That group of people tried to storm the Capitol, were chanting for the death of elected leaders, and were trying to keep our Congress from performing its constitutional role. So his choice on his inauguration day was a first step that week that led to me to decide by that Friday I was going to retire from the military this year.
What about foreign aid?
Foreign aid is, again, personally, I think charity begins at home, but I'd like to see our government echoing that charity. I've seen USAID do a lot of good work in a lot of places, and for a small fraction of the federal budget, saving lives around the world wasn't necessarily a problem for me. I thought that was the morally right thing to do. Obviously, those in power right now disagree. Again, morality is an individual choice, and they made their choice and they made it clear. I'm not entirely sure they did it in accordance with the law. That's another story.
How do you see the president's desire to send in troops or the National Guard to American cities?
I see that as right now a major cause of concern. If you listen to his remarks, you listen to his justifications behind those orders, we've had people, including federal judges, say the rhetoric, the written justifications do not match the actual reality. In the military, there's an assumption when you get orders, they're based on the best information available and that they're legal to execute. In this case, we have orders from the Secretary of Defense, approved by the president, that have been, with governors objecting to them, and now federal judges and authorities saying, no, these should not be executed, in large part because the rhetoric, the justification, is just so disconnected from the reality. It's not factual. That puts our military units in a really bad place. They now have one legal authority who they normally follow telling them to do something for reasons that may or may not be clear to those on the ground. and they have another lawful authority saying, no, don't do that. And the more we have situations like this where units have conflicting orders from two legal authorities, the more we're going to undermine our cohesion of our forces, the unity of our forces, and the strength of our country, because it's going to military officers aren't supposed to have to choose which set of orders to follow. It's supposed to be clear. And under this administration and their willingness to push the boundary of the law, that's no longer clear in some cases.
Did you see politics infecting individual service members or infecting that cohesion, disrupting that cohesion in a way that it hadn't before over the last 9 months?
I can only speak to my own observations, my own experiences, and frankly, I have had no direct role in anything in Portland or Washington, D.C., and I was fairly removed from what happened in Los Angeles as well. So I really can't speak to any individual or personal reactions to those other than my own opinions on both morality and what I'm seeing from the courts on legality.
You say that you've been a little bit, bother is not the right word, but you found it telling that people have called you courageous for posting this op-ed, for resigning your post.
The fact I'm courageous for retiring and more so for speaking out is a concern, because the First Amendment that many of us have swore our lives to defend and the president has sworn to uphold as well guarantees us the right of free speech. And if our senior government officials have made very clear comments that indicate there's possible retribution for free speech, and that's spreading fear around our country. Fear is contagious, but also I think courage is contagious. And right now, if there are those real threats of retribution, if there are at least real fears of retribution for the rhetoric, then I think right now we need more people to stand up, and we need more people to make clear that this is not acceptable, and that every American, whether you agree with them or not, has their right to peacefully execute their First Amendment rights, whether by speaking, whether by writing, or going to a protest on Saturday.
I do want to, just on that note, play a little bit of the president during his speech to military leaders. Same day you resigned, same day he gave that speech, although yours was planned.
Same day my retirement happened to take effect. I decided in January, the week of his inauguration.
Yeah, sorry. My apologies on that. Let me just play a little bit of what he told generals.
Only in recent decades, I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very, don't laugh, you're not allowed to do that. You know what, just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future.
Okay, I want to play one other one. This is the one, and I'm sorry I wasn't clear to the control room. I want to play the one about Donald Trump talking about the invasion from within.
Only in recent decades did politicians somehow come to believe that our job is to police the far reaches of Kenya and Somalia, while America is under invasion from within. We're under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. At least when they're wearing a uniform, you can take them out. These people don't have uniforms. But we are under invasion from within. We're stopping it very quickly.
Do you think that we're under invasion from within? Do you see what's happening on American streets as insurrection?
There have been limited cases of small-scale violence, which most people peacefully protesting the government also abhor and oppose. I think President Trump said a lot of things in that speech that were questionable. I'll use a couple lines he has used to justify killing people. Talking about boats from Venezuela, he said twice, every boat kills about 25,000 people. And then he talked about stacked up with bags of white powder. That's mostly fentanyl and other drugs too. There is absolutely no way any single boat has killed 25,000 people. And those stacks of white powder, according to his own Coast Guard seizures, according to his DEA, and according to everybody else, they're not fentanyl really at all. They're cocaine. So if he thinks blowing up boatloads of cocaine is going to protect the real threat to American people, I think we had 80,000 Americans die of drug-related deaths last year, more than half because of fentanyl. There's just no connection to reality.
Yeah, and a lot of them, according to the reporting and the accounting from the government, are coming in through the ports of entry, the legal ports of entry. Thank you so much. Doug Krugman, former colonel, served 24 years in the United States Marine Corps. I appreciate your service, sir, and thank you very much for coming on and telling us your story.
Thank you for your time.